for 24 years, I've been encouraging people. The thing about moving to Africa,
it's totally
it's
different.
Two different.
Moving
One is a
and
visit,
holiday, two different things.
Visit, a holiday tour. Wonderful. Come do it. Pick your place. Free yourself. Free your mind. Come restore yourself here. Moving, what I'm seeing on these chats and groups, people are picking where they want to move. They've never even stepped foot on the continent. That is, for me, it's like, who does that?
Yeah.
You've never even been.
Hello, my name is Ivy Prosper, and I tell stories from Africa and the African diaspora. I love having conversations with interesting people here in Ghana. And today I have a woman who has a really, really interesting story. I just love how she is somebody who's from the diaspora, didn't really have a connection with Ghana. When I say didn't have a connection, what I mean is she's not somebody who had family members in Ghana and then decided to move back home to family. So she made the decision on her own to come to Ghana. And she's been traveling to Ghana for many, many years. So she's not new to the Ghana game, as we are hearing people coming over the last 5 years because of the year of return, beyond the return, those types of things. But she's somebody who had an interest long before that. So we are going to have a conversation with Candace today, and I'm really excited, and I hope you enjoy this conversation as well. So Candace, it's so wonderful to meet you. We met through a mutual friend, Kofi.
Yes.
And he spoke very highly of you and that you had a great story to tell and that I should have a chat with you. So I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to be here too. It really feels like such an honor, and especially it's high praise coming from Kofi Anko to be in this space. So
for him,
I'm grateful.
And me too. For him, when he says something, it's like you gotta just
yes. The answer's yes.
yes. So introduce yourself, where you're from, and what brought you to Ghana the first time you came.
Yes. So my name is Candace Mickens. I am originally from Pennsylvania, but I've been living in the Washington, D.C. area for a lot of years, a lot of years. And my first journey to Africa, period, was in the year 2000. I went to Senegal. Senegal was the first country that I visited. And then my first trip to Ghana was the year 2002.
Okay. So why Senegal?
Well, I actually was 30 years old. And I think I was going through a moment in life where I was just really seeking to discover more of myself, more of my culture, more of just what was driving me as a 30-year-old. It just was an opportunity with a friend. I do believe it was divine order to go to Senegal for a 2-week tour, 1 week in a village, 1 week in the city. And then I literally came back. I was a corporate manager, came back, sold everything, moved into a small room. This is a long story. Moved into a room in DC to save my money, and then went back to Senegal and stayed for 6 months in Senegal. And that was a very pivotal change for the course of the rest of my life.
Right.
Yeah.
So was Africa ever a place that you thought that you would come to visit in the first place? Because I've met a lot of people who are, from the US or Canada, UK, like different people who never really had Africa on their radar. It was always, I'll go on vacation in, Paris or London, or, the dream bucket list is usually someplace in Europe.
Yes.
They didn't usually before think about an African country, unless it was to go to Egypt to see the pyramids.
Exactly.
What inspired you to think about coming? I know it was with a friend, right? But before that, did you ever think about coming?
Yeah, so I grew up in a family in a predominantly white area where the Black people were all related to me. So I grew up in what I would consider a village, and definitely with Black people being activists, for our rights in the States, but it wasn't African centered. So I've always grown up being proud of my Blackness. No matter how light my skin is, I've always been proud of my Blackness. But it wasn't overlaid with the history of Africa. So when I met in Mexico a friend who was traveling to Senegal, I was like, yes, I want to experience Africa. And it was divine order. I do believe it was my ancestors paving a way for so much more to come.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was where I discovered who I was. It was the beginning seed. And it's interesting because when I came back after that 6 months, I was really lost. I was really disoriented in
Really?
the American culture.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. It had shifted me so deeply, so spiritually, so energetically, that I sought out West African dance. So I've been dancing West African dance in the States for now 24 years. And it was interesting because in dance classes, I was going to West African dance several times a week. We have a whole community that is centered around African consciousness. And I didn't come into that conscious till after I had already went and traveled to Africa. So I have a very unique perspective. But, you know, when the proverbial drum calls,
Mm-hmm.
you answer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been calling me ever since.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. So after that that 6 month period, did you strategically start planning that you wanted to come back and stay, or just come for visits every year? Like, what was the plan? What's
Yeah.
next for you after that?
So I had this really kind of out of body experience in Senegal. It was a divine download, let's just say. I was really seeking, always raised in a very spiritual household, Christian based household. And so I was like reading and discovering and, expanding, to say the least, at that time. And I received a very divine message about a mission. And I was like, what mission? What mission? And then I just kept going back. Never in my wildest dreams would I have realized that first journey would turn into traveling to over 14, 15 countries since then, some many times, Senegal at least 7 times, Ghana, I don't know how, 4 or 5 times, and a lot of West African countries, but 26 countries around the world.
That's a lot.
It was not my plan.
Mm-hmm.
It was not. It definitely was a divine plan, because no one could have told me at that point, oh, you will do all of these things, and not for a specific work reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it's interesting. Every opportunity came in a different way, but I truly believe it was an opportunity for me to remember who I am, down to my bloodline, down to my spirit line. It's beyond me. It's not. You can't use your logical mind to explain my journey.
Mm-hmm.
I still can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, of the 26 countries you've traveled around the world, how many of those are in the continent of Africa?
Yeah, I've lost track. It's like 14 or 15 African countries.
And
with Ghana and Senegal being where I've traveled the most repeatedly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you found that when you came to Senegal and then Ghana and other African countries, have you found that there was any kind of spiritual connection, or did you see certain things that you recognized that were familiar? Because I've met people who have said, like, I met a woman from New Orleans who was saying how there was things she saw that Ghanaians do that were similar to New Orleans. Were there things that seemed familiar when you came?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I saw in that first trip to Senegal was this peace that I'd never experienced. There was this connectedness that I really just couldn't explain. I'm still unraveling that. But more than that, I was seeing my aunties, my uncles, my cousins. My father is one of 13. I believe my grandma had 14 children. He's one of 13. Same mother, same father. And, some of them are very light skinned. Some of them are very brown skinned. So I grew up with my family members being all shades of the melanin spectrum. And so being in Africa, and especially West Africa, because most of my journeys were in West Africa for many years, and just seeing, my cousins, my uncles, my aunties everywhere. I always tell people the one profound thing for me, and it still gets me, is the billboards. See, people don't think about that. It's like when you see the billboards for the beauty supply, the skincare, the elections, or whatever it is, these big billboards, even the funerals, it's all Black people.
Yeah.
That's not something I grew up seeing in the States.
Right.
It's rare.
Yeah.
It's rare to see us reflected in such beautiful, positive images. So that was very interesting to me from the beginning. And there's so much to be said. but I can't bypass my first journey in Senegal through the door of no return, right? And then a few years later, coming to Cape Coast, Cape Coast. I don't even want to say castle or
Yeah,
Elamina.
the
The
dungeons.
dungeons,
Yeah.
right? These torture chambers, and for us being able to experience that, knowing that we have ancestors who were enslaved. I have a picture of my great aunt's grandfather in my home here, who was enslaved. I've been on the plantation where he was enslaved on. Yes, that's why I have him in my home here. And to stand in that door of no return in Senegal was indescribable. And then coming to Elmina and Cape Coast, my soul was rocked, right? But then what happened is my mother and one of my sister's children came to visit me while and during that 6 months journey. And I stood in the door of no return with 3 generations of my family. And I was like, you have no hold. I have returned. I have returned. I have returned again and again and again and again. And I will keep returning. So for me to come back in this space with having a home, it's not about these walls. I am one of my ancestors' greatest prayers. And that really came clear to me one day, this trip, while I was sitting in this house, and said, there was an enslaved ancestor toiling, crying because he was removed from his homeland. And his greatest prayer was, if I can make it home, let one of my children, my grandchildren, come back to the continent. I am that grandchild. Yeah, so for me, it's not about a house. It's about restoring my ancestral legacy, my ancestral memory. And it's way beyond anything that I could have ever imagined. Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. And just to hear you say that you have a photo of one of your ancestors
it's over there.
Here must be such a indescribable feeling, because I'm sure that he's like spiritually he knows you're here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I put in this house. There's what I call my ancestral walkway. That is one of the things that I have learned through traveling to Africa, but not only Africa, around the world, is that I honor my ancestors. I'm proudly honor my ancestors. I don't feel there's any evil thing. If honoring my ancestors is the evil, then I just don't understand it. The very people that brought me into this life, that paved the way for me to be here, I honor my ancestors with the deepest and utmost respect that I have. And especially my African ancestors, my last name is Scottish or Irish or something. But as an African American, there's European interplays in there. Yeah.
It's in Ghana too.
Yeah.
I mean, especially along the coast in the central region, you see there's a lot of, there's last names like Mills and Duncan. And those are all names that were Europeans.
Yeah,
who left their
they
names here.
Through slavery, through colonialism. Maybe it was through love. I don't know. But at the same time, I don't know those particular ancestors. I'm very aware that I honor my African ancestors. I took a DNA test through African Ancestry back in 2002. Interestingly enough, I was, I think, the 9th person ever to take African Ancestry DNA. And it was a matrilineal line, so through my mother. And it came back Sierra Leone, the Minde. And so a few years ago, I had the opportunity to go with African Ancestry and Gina Page and Diallo Sumbri, who's instrumental here in Ghana, through the year of no return. So I was able to get my ECOWAS passport at that time. And so right after that was when I then purchased a home here. So for me, these are very symbolic moments in this 24-year journey. Being able to have, a document through a government agency to travel back and forth to Africa, being able to have a small piece of land and some 4 walls in a building to say I was here. All of that are symbolic steps that I'm grateful for. But nothing beats the ancestral legacy that I'm here to restore.
That's wonderful. And have this home that we're in right now, you got the land and had this home built. Have any of your family members been able to visit this home yet?
My sister was able to come before I actually physically moved in. It was not quite ready, but she was able to come and see. She is the only, I'm thinking through my Rolodex in my mind, the only one of my family members at this point, because this is all new. And then I had a few friends here the other night. And then most of my guests have been my neighbors that I am really enjoying having.
Good.
Yes.
That's good. So you have a great group of people around you.
Yes, it was a big part of the reason that I chose Pokuase Heights and Kofi. Honestly, I was sitting at home 2 Decembers ago. I had COVID.
That was 2022?
I believe it was 2022. I think that was the year. And I was preparing to go visit my family for Christmas. And I ended up with some sniffles and a cold or whatever, and ended up with COVID. And I was very disappointed that I would not be able to go see my family. So I'm sitting in my house by myself. So I decided to buy a house. That's what I said.
Wait, no. So you're sitting in the US
yes.
at home with COVID.
Yes.
And then you bought this place.
Yeah.
Like, how did that
come together? It sounds crazy. And I said it like that because it was really absolutely crazy. What it was is that Diallo Sumbari had shared on social media, some of the development initiatives that Kofi Ankou had. And so I was looking at it, and, he had some more luxury style of townhomes available. And then we had this one that I currently am in. And I looked and I said, I've been traveling back and forth, and this is an opportunity where the house is the same over and over again. We know that if you're building a house from scratch and you have to have an architect, you have to be in the space day in, day out to manage all of that, right? So when I saw the ease and I thought, I need something that's somewhat turnkey, that I don't have to oversee the process. I don't have to design. I don't have to answer the questions. And because I was sitting at home with time on my hands, because I stay pretty busy, and I looked, and I had actually been saving my money to buy a house in America. And then I just was like, no, now's the time. I've been traveling back and forth. I always say my trips are centered around blue waters and Black people. And I said, now's the time. Ghana's the gateway of Africa, and I need a home as I'm aging in the aging process. I want to secure my retirement future somewhere in Africa. And I've been to Ghana plenty. I know I have a big community here. There is the AAAG, the African American Association of Ghana, which I believe has been around for almost 40 years.
Like 30 years,
something.
I think, 33, 34.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And I've been connected with them. I know lots of people through that, but I also know a lot of, other people.
Yeah.
And I had just received my Sierra Leonean passport. And so I look at Africa as one Africa. So, I want to be throughout Africa, not just Ghana. I want to be in Sierra Leone. I want to be in Ghana. I want to be in Nigeria, Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda. I've traveled to most of those places, but hey, why not?
Yeah.
If in the States people there are plenty of people that live in Washington, D.C., and they have a Florida home.
Right. So why not?
Why not have a home in Africa? What am I going to do in Florida? So it's unfolding. It's been a little scary. I've been a little nervous because any change and uncertainty and stepping into the unknown is, you get a little like, oh, what am I doing?
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true for anybody, especially as we get older. You kind of feel like, am I making the right choice?
You get comfortable.
Time is not, on my side. Like, can I really? And you're right. People get in their comfort zone. So you're like, why should I get out? Like, I know what I know.
Yeah.
I know it's point A to point B. Why am I going to now just
uproot? And it's as you get older, you get slower, you get more rooted, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a part of the cycle of life. But when I was younger, one of the times when I stayed in Ghana for 4 months in 2006, I ended up traveling by road. I flew to Kenya because I met a friend, just a friend, and oh, you live in Kenya? Can I come visit? So I flew to Kenya. Then someone else said, oh, Ethiopia is right there. Really? Can I come visit? There's so many stories behind this. Went to Ethiopia, came back to Ghana. My friends who I brought here to Ghana had left me a note. We're in Togo because they had to leave for the 90 days to visa. And so I met them in Togo, had a dream. It's a whole story. We don't have time for all of that. Had a dream. Because of a dream, ended up going by road from Togo, Burkina Faso, Mali, and then to Senegal, right? I flew, all based on a dream. 3 women, can't speak French, through Francophone countries.
And you drove.
And didn't even have a phone, didn't even have a mobile phone and WhatsApp and be in contact. And it was because of a dream that I had where my Senegalese father, who I call my father from that 6-month journey, he was at the crossroads. He said, go this way, the road is clear. And I made my way all the way to Senegal. And when I got there, there was a Ghanaian brother named Ahmed, who I'd known from Senegal. We were at my Senegalese family's compound. And when I pulled up in the yard, everyone's looking up in the sand, like, who's coming up in a taxi? Because I didn't call, I just arrived. And when the babies, there's a Fulani village. And they were like, Happy. My Senegalese name is Habibatu, or Habiba. And so people are taking our luggage. The babies were grabbing our legs. My friend, she just started crying. She said, oh my God, there's so much love here. And so my Ghanaian friend takes me to my Senegalese father. He translates. We meet him at his second wife's house. And so I, through him as translating, I said to my Senegalese father, please forgive me for coming unannounced. And I saw you in a dream. I went from Ghana, Togo, Burkina Faso, Mali to Senegal. We landed in the day of Ramadan at the sighting of the moon. And so I see him using his fingers and he's talking to Muhammad. Muhammad said, Papa Ba said, you go by road through all of these countries. He was like, you never have to call. This is your home. You never have to call to come home. This is your home. So I claim Senegal as my home. I am now claiming Ghana as my home, because I know that it's more than just about me, Candace, or Abibatu, or Lagolan, which is my Senegalese name, or Nyalihum, which Sierra Leonean name, or Ekua, Ekuya, Aku. I go by Aku as the Eves, as a Wednesday board. So it's not about me, this body. This is bigger than me to be here.
Wow, what a journey. What a journey. I'm just, in my mind, I'm like thinking, you got on the road and did a road trip to West Africa.
Road trip. I have stories.
My name is Ivy Prosper, and I'm the author of this book, Your Essential Guide on Moving to Ghana. This is the second edition of this book, and I wanted to share it with you today. I often have people asking me questions about moving to Ghana, what it's like, what they can expect, investment opportunities, resources, cultural experiences, what they should look out for, is it a safe country or not? And now I answer many of the questions in this book. It's available on Amazon, and you just go to Amazon.com and type in Ivy Prosper and the book will come up, or type in Your Essential Guide on Moving to Ghana. It's very important to me that people who are thinking of making the transition to living in Ghana or simply visiting or investing, to have as much basic knowledge as possible to understand the country's culture, the history, the nuances involved in being in a country like Ghana. So I hope this book serves you well as you navigate your journey to Ghana.
So I've learned more than most that are now excited. I'm so happy to see that my fellow brothers and sisters are all wanting to
now
come.
Coming, yeah.
Yeah. But I was coming when there wasn't WhatsApp, when there were telecenters, when I had to go make a phone call in the little telecenter.
Yeah, and in Ghana they were called communication center.
Yes,
Yes, I
yes.
remember the communication center.
And when you had to go to the email place
Yes.
to send your email here in Ghana,
Yes,
too,
I
right?
know. Trust
So
me, I know.
that was the time when I was coming. I had to come and be present here.
Yeah.
I couldn't be talking to people in video chat.
No, there was
chatting.
no such thing then.
Yeah, there was no such thing. So I know how to be here.
Yeah.
Be here.
Yeah.
A lot of people who are talking about coming here, they can't make it a day. I'm sorry.
No, there's people who can't make it. No, there's people who can't make it. I mean, we see it.
Can't.
We see people who express their discontent and can't make it, and then they leave. But yeah, so you've really done very well.
Yes.
You've done better than even some Africans, because there's Africans who leave the continent to go and live in America, and when they come back, like I've met some people who've said, "Oh, you've done well, Ivy, because I left here when I was 2 years old and moved to Canada with my parents," and it's like, they're like, "You left so young and now you've come back." And some of them are like, "I grew up here and did high school, all that." And they come back and they're like, no, I can't. And they want to go back.
Yeah. So, and I think that's, in my journey, it's not everyone's.
It's not for everyone.
Journey. Yeah. And one of the things is like in Senegal, when I stayed for 6 months, I stayed in a village that had no electricity, no running water. And then we had a house. So we were back and forth. But I know I can do that. Mm-hmm. It's not a problem. Mm-hmm. Right. And I've had the blessed opportunity to experience all the beautiful aspects of Africa, right? And I say Africa intentionally because all the people with the comments, Africa's not a country. Yeah, I'm very aware. Right. But I also I've had the journey to travel through different countries in Africa. And one of the things that I love, I started taking, I would take pictures of in villages, at the well or, things because we might not have ever seen that. But then it hit me. I'm only perpetuating one view of African life, right? And there are major cities. So I would, take pictures of, the 5-star hotels, of the resorts, of, because it's all beautiful to me. It doesn't matter, and all the people in all the spaces are beautiful. Whether you're in a rural village, living very natural and off the land, which is, I really love, because I love nature. Or whether you're living, in the newer places with the swimming pools on top, there's a wide variety, not only in Ghana, but throughout Africa that we can expose ourselves to. Not everybody can live in the country in the U.S. There are New Yorkers that can't leave New York.
That's very true.
Right?
That's very
They're not going to go down south to Atlanta.
Yeah, or
right?
Tennessee.
They're city people.
Yeah.
So why do you think that then you can come and be in the country in Africa? It's not. The country doesn't even want you, and you and your rigid ways, right? You have to be able to release some things, release some of your stuck mindsets and behaviors, and be able to be open to the flow of communication that's different, right? We know Africa's working on a different time. We know Africa's working on another time. And the communication is different, right? And so you have to navigate the cultural differences. And it's not easy. It's not easy, right?
It's not.
But we do it.
It's not. It's not.
Well, that's one of the things in Africa. I've been in very serious ceremonies and the phone be going off and people answering.
And people answering calls.
Hey, so
you'll be sitting there and it's like, they're doing something.
Yes.
They're about to close the casket.
Yes.
And someone gets a call like,
hey, Charlie.
Hey, I'm at a funeral.
Yes.
And you're like, dude, why did you answer the call? And if you want to answer the call, leave the room. Go outside.
But that's the culture, right?
It's the thing. It's the mobile phone thing. We are not really lectured on how
etiquette.
to use it. Yes.
Etiquette.
Well,
it's not a thing.
No, you don't say it's not a thing.
Well, are we recording? Because I think this is interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's still rolling.
Oh, okay. But because I think
we act on emergency. All right. So no matter what we are doing, if it's an emergency, we act.
He's off camera. He's saying they answer the phone because they're acting off of emergency.
Yes, but may I offer what I've witnessed? Yeah. The difference. Africa is very communal, right? That's the culture. It's community. It's communal. So there's always people around, right? So it's not a thing to be, in a trotro, in a bus, in the VIP bus, wherever you are, pass a baby. hey, hold it, you don't know the baby gets
Yeah,
in
yeah,
your
yeah.
lap.
They'll be like, oh,
So,
hold my baby. And
yeah,
then they're doing
hold
something. You're just
it.
like, oh, I'm holding
Right,
someone's baby.
right.
You would
So
never do that in America
exactly.
or
So I think
Canada.
it's
Like,
the same with the phone and the mobile and the situation. Everything is fluid.
mhm,
Everything is holistic, right? And I don't think it's a matter of poor or right etiquette or different etiquette. It just is. It's just everything is happening all at once, right? You're driving and you're getting your market, you're getting your toilet paper, you're getting your sobolo, you're getting your cassava donut all on the side of the road at the same time
yeah.
as you're waiting while you're
Yeah.
taking a meeting, right? And so to me, there's a beauty in that integration
Mhm,
and holistic. But as someone from the Western world, you have to learn
mhm,
how to release this sense of isolation and
mhm.
concepts. I will say one story while I was living. One time, I would go to the village and then sometimes stay at my house, and back and forth. And the elder mother, was like, "Is she sick?" And they were like, "No, she just didn't want to come this time," because I was with friends that were dating and later got married. And
Right.
so, I was the third wheel. So sometimes I'm like, I'll stay. You all go to the
Mhm,
village.
mhm.
And it never dawned on me, oh, for me to choose to stay by myself, oh, she must be mentally ill. She must
Mm,
be sick to choose to be by herself,
yeah.
right? And I thought about it and I'm like, in some ways, that is a sickness, right?
Mhm.
We have this sense of this is mine, 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 mine. We don't necessarily have this communal space. And then another friend came to visit me in the States, and he found out that an elder had died in DC in the home. And it took a while before anyone found out. And he was so hurt. And he said, no one in where I'm from would ever die without hands being near them,
Mhm,
because there's always somebody around to care,
mhm,
right? So when you look at that from that landscape and that cultural perspective, you see where we have been robbed
mhm.
of our natural ability to be a communal people, right? Eating from the same bowl,
Mhm,
eating from the same plate,
mhm,
eating from our hands, being
mhm,
connected to the earth.
mhm.
So,
Wow. Yeah, it's a good perspective. Yeah. I would love to know what you do when you're here. Are you doing any work? Have you started a business? Or are you just using it as a time to be at peace and rest and relax?
yeah. Ah, so all of this is very new. So it's not been a long time, even though it seems like a long. I'm back and forth. How do you say it? Mekoba, mekoba,
Mekwaba.
mekoba.
Yeah.
I'm back and forth.
Yeah.
So it has been a little bit of all of that. In the States, I'm a director of finance and operations for close to 30 years.
Mhm.
That's my full time job. I also have a holistic health and wellness business dealing with body work and energy work and yoga and breath work. And and I teach that. And I teach like massage therapists and body workers. So I have, since I've been here, been doing a little bit of work with people in the wellness space. I am a part of Wellness Women Africa, which is an amazing
Yes, I
group
know that.
with
Yeah.
Crystal.
I just did a Zoom call with Crystal
Yeah,
yesterday. Yeah.
Crystal's amazing. And so it's like my type of people. And
Mhm.
we had a meetup. So I've been going to that. So I am looking to teach some workshops in the wellness space
Mhm.
here. And I would love to say that I'm also just here relaxing, because that's what I thought I would be. Hey, I have more of a social life here than I have in the States. And I do work remote as a director of finance and
Okay.
operations. So I've been able to work remote and, go back and forth and travel. I have also a lot of close friends and family in Prom Prom. So that's like 2 hours
Yeah,
from
yeah,
here. So I
yeah.
go to there. I have people in Cape Coast and Kumasi. I've got
You
people
got your
around.
community.
So yeah, I'm not here alone.
Yeah.
And so, I'm invited to a birthday party at Jamrock. The other night I went to that, and Kukua Fitness. I went to an event down at next to Sandbox. What is it, Bella Africana or something?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
forget the
yeah. I know
name.
it's the owners are the ones who own Bella Afrique at
I was
Afripico.
wondering
It's the same
about.
owners.
Oh, okay, that
Yeah,
is beautiful
it
space.
is.
And yeah, so Kukua at 66 years old worked me out. Oof.
I can't
Uh,
believe she's 66.
I used to have her classes on VHS, on VCR. one of the very first things. That's how long
Wow.
she was before Zumba and all of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Wow. That's amazing.
yeah.
So what would you tell somebody who's like thinking about coming to Ghana? Because there's still a lot of people who haven't made the trip, and they're thinking, should I go to an African country? They're not so sure. They're hesitant because they still might have those things in their mind of what the media has perpetuated over the decades and decades.
Yes. So, yeah, I just want to speak on that media. Back in 2006, I was working with Ambassador Bennett with Diaspora African Forum and Africa's International Media Summit. And that was the whole thing, is to rebrand the image of Africa, right? We're always having to rebrand. Now, Instagram and Afrobeats is doing that for us, because now people are looking at social media, the music, and they're like, and then, you know, the Afrochella, and all of those types of things. Now it's not as big of a deal. Now people want to come, you know, to Africa. And I say yes to all of whomever wants to come to Africa. Yes, for 24 years, I've been encouraging people. The thing about moving to Africa,
it's totally different.
It's two different.
Moving
One is a
and
visit,
holiday, two different things.
Visit, a holiday tour, wonderful. Come, do it. Pick your place, free yourself, free your mind. Come restore yourself here. Moving, what I'm seeing on these chats and groups, people are picking where they want to move. They've never even stepped foot on the continent. That is, for me, it's like, who does that?
Yeah.
You've never even been, right? You've never even visited one country, but you want to come and move. And I just don't advise on that. Come visit one time, visit a couple of times, stay longer than 10 days, stay, you know, for a month, 6 months, go visit another country, because, you know, it's all beautiful to me, but they all have their own energy, their own accessibility. So you have to figure that out for yourself. And as people who, from the diaspora, who were disconnected from our ancestors and the culture, we all have a mix of ancestry, you know? So I've taken 23andMe and Ancestry DNA. I didn't need for any DNA test to tell me that I have West African blood in me, because play a drum right now, you will know that I have West African blood in me, because, you know, I'm pulled by that. And then it was just confirmed when I saw it. And it showed up. Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria is a big portion, the Congo, a lot of mixed. So most of us have that. And if that's the case, which we understand, we have a lot of mixed blood, maybe Ghana's not the place for you long term. Maybe it's somewhere else.
Yeah.
Maybe there's somewhere else that your soul is being called to. I know that my soul is called to be around, right? So I just think that people have to take their time and come. I dislike the idea of coming and trying to save someone. And I tell anybody, I came to save me.
I was just going to say, some people need to save themselves.
Me. Yeah. How am I coming to save? People in Africa don't need saving. You know, the most beautiful smiles, the most beautiful, yes. Are there people who lack resources, fundamental resources of water or electricity, or the things that everybody should have? You know, absolutely. But when people start speaking about, oh, Africa's the poverty, this, I'm like, who's really impoverished? Who is really impoverished? We might have the big houses and the cars and all of that stuff, but we barely know our neighbor. We barely speak to our family members, right? To me, that's riches. And maybe sometimes people on the continent have forgotten the riches that they have. And so they're going to look to the West for job opportunities. And I'm not faulting anybody for that. Everyone wants to go where maybe they can do better for their family and all of that. I understand that. But a lot of times people go there and they don't have a minute to even sit and take a breath.
Yeah.
Because people are working around the clock.
Overtime,
they're not connecting, you know. So at what cost do we have these big houses and, you know, all of these things? There's a trade-off somewhere.
Definitely.
So, you know, to each their own.
Yeah.
But Africa, I'm not going to say it's just fine just the way it is, because there's obviously things like the roads. We all know the roads.
The roads.
The roads are rough.
The roads coming here. The roads.
And the traffic is choked. You know, traffic is way stronger than in the States, right? So yeah, so there's a lot of things, obviously, and that's why, as some people don't like to be called African Americans. I don't mind it. I am in America. I recognize I still have a lot of American ways, but I also respect and seek out understanding for the culture. And so we're a clan in and of ourselves, right? If you have the Ashantis, you have the Akans and the Eves, and throughout Africa we have clans. Well, to me, African American, we are our own clan. And some might say, "Oh, well, you go there and you're among yourselves." That happens naturally because there's shared language, shared culture, shared experiences, shared things. But we have to be able to step out of that. That's why I love my neighborhood here. The majority, 90% of my neighbors are Ghanaian. Some of them live in the States and the UK and back and forth like me. Some are here permanently. And so I'm able to learn from them on our little meetups about our neighborhood experiences. We have, meetings and things. And one day we were talking about the Abobaya. Abobaya. Yeah. And so one of my neighbors were talking and he stops. He says, "Let me explain the Abobaya for Candace." And I laughed. I was like, "Teach me." But now I know the Abobaya. I know what it is, so I'm learning. I'm a small child, right? I am not just born. I'm not an infant. I'm not still at, my mother's breast in my experience.
Right.
But I'm still like a little one raising my hands up, like, pick me up, help me. I'm even after 24 years, I'm still, but I'm growing. I'm growing.
I mean, I'm growing too. I mean, I was born here, but I was raised in Canada. And I mean, my mom always taught us about the culture and everything and the language. And so coming back, there's a lot of things that I'm also learning all the time too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally understand. Yeah. But one of the things I do appreciate is the sense of community that you mentioned earlier. Because when I was living in Toronto, I remember the neighbor I had, I didn't even know my neighbor's name on both sides. And the thing is, when I had moved into that place I was renting, I tried to say hi to the people and they just looked at me like they didn't want to talk to me. So I was like, okay, they don't want to talk to me. That's fine. And for 2 years living in that particular place, I didn't even know the neighbors' names. And they didn't know my names. But here in Ghana, you mentioned having COVID. I had COVID in 2021, December. And my neighbors were so used to always seeing me come and go, come and go, come and go, because I'm always on the go with work. And then they didn't see me out for a while. And then someone came knocking on my gate and they're like, "Are you okay? We haven't seen you." So it's like, oh, somebody's concerned about my well-being, who's not somebody who's like living with me. Or anything.
Community. And
so,
that's what that time period did. However you feel about it, pandemic, whatever it is, whatever it was, we're not going to speak on that.
That's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole other conversation. But I think these times we're in have called us to shift into what is really important. More people are looking at, okay, where does my food come from? What is natural foods? How do I heal myself through natural medicines, through herbs? See, that's the thing, that Africa has all the technology. There's the original technology.
There's so much here.
There's so
much here.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Yeah. And that's, the value. And so speaking of which, I decorated my home with African art because you can always judge or not judge or recognize what people value by what they have around them, right? If you have a Benz, if you have a this, and there's nothing wrong with those things, but you can tell what you value. I value African art. I value African culture. My home in the States looks just like here. It looks just like here because I love to support artists, any artists, like from around the world. And I try, as I'm coming here, to support, the people in my neighborhood, the people in Ghana. This artwork is from Tanzania, but because I had it. But the one over here is from a Ghanaian artist, and just different things. For me, just as long as it's from Africa. I do have some China Mall stuff. Everybody has to go to China Mall for something, right? You got to get a bucket, or a mop, or a rug.
For those watching who are not living in Ghana, China Mall is a store that is like this big, huge discount type store, kind of like Walmart-ish.
Walmart, Costco-ish,
It's
Target-ish,
Chinese, but
I
it's
don't-
Chinese owned. It's called China Mall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to, because if I say that and then people are like, oh, you got that at China Mall. Yeah, I probably did. But I am very intentional about supporting not only within, my purchases, where my money goes, even in Pokuase, which I call P-Town. I'm getting people to call Pokuase P-Town.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, people, my driver.
Isn't there a name that people call Pokuase? Do they call it P-Town? Is it something else?
No, they don't call it
There's
P-Town.
nothing they have for it.
I'm not saying that. I don't
know.
I'm
asking. I'm wondering.
No,
I guess not. Because I remember like Kofodia, people say Kof Town. So I was wondering if there's
Oh, no, I think they call it Little London or something.
Huh?
Something,
I've not heard that before.
Well, one of my drivers said that. But anyway, so I call it P-Town.
Okay.
That's just my little nickname.
That's
when I come into P-Town, I'm like, I'm here.
That's nice.
In P-Town. So now everybody that I know is like, yeah, you going to P-Town? Yeah, I'm in P-Town. Mark my words. 5 years from now, P-Town is it.
Yeah. Well, today has been really, really a great conversation. I've loved chatting with you today. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
This is awesome. I'm so glad that Kofi introduced us.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm surprised we haven't met before, because you're naming off people that I know as well. And I'm just like, how come we haven't met before?
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Ghana is small. Like, I was in Melcombe and I hear Candace. And I'm like, yeah, it feels like DC. Doesn't matter, So, like minds start to navigate and pull together.
Yeah.
So,
It's great. I would love to take a look at their ancestors' wall.
Okay.
We'll catch that.
Yeah. It's my father.
Oh, it's your dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I call this place Joe's place.
His name was Joe?
Yes.
That was my father's
Joseph,
name too.
Yes. My middle name is Joe. And then Nga is in Joe to dance. My Joe Panlocal. So, yeah, and then these are all grandparents, great-great-grandparents, great-great from different lines. This is the one that's over there.
Yeah.
Bigger. There's even more that I have to put up.
This is really nice that you have these pictures of them, because some people don't even
have
any pictures.
I'm very blessed that my father and my sister are kind of genealogists and have pulled pictures. There's even more that we have to put up here. Yeah, but all grandparents, great-great-grandparents. And someone asked where my mother was, and I was like, my mother's still living, so I'm not putting her up here, but I'll bring a picture of my mother the next time to put
this
elsewhere.
person looks like there's a real story or history.
All of them, yes. All stories. I knew him, that's my great-grandfather, till I was 18. My grandma I knew till, this is my aunt's mother, and then my grandmother I knew till I was 40.
Oh, that's your grandmother?
Mm-hmm.
Look at
they're all my grandmothers. They're all
some glamour woman.
Yeah. Well, she looked like that every day, but that is a special photo of her. Yes.
Are there any significant stories that you've heard about any of them that really resonated with you?
There's plenty. Like I said, I knew most. I mean, the ones I pointed out, I've spent a lifetime with. This one is a significant. It's my mother's father, who also had some native in him. But you see, his wife had on trousers, and that was a big deal back in that time. And she went and put on his baseball. He also played for the minor Negro leagues, which is kind of the shirt my dad has on. But my great grandfather played for back, I don't even know, early 1900s. He played, and he took care of the stable horses. So I have a picture of him with the horse. So, I mean, even their home still stands now. I think they bought it in 1915 or something. I'm not sure.
And that's a blessing.
Yeah.
The home is still standing.
Yeah.
Those were times when Black people weren't even allowed to get property in some places, especially.
Exactly. So,
this is nice.
So the family is important to me.
Yeah.
And that's community. Mm.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's it.
That's wonderful. 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 Well, thank you for having me in your home today.
Yeah.
It's been lovely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
for
Thank
everything
you.
like
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching today. This has been a really wonderful conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Candace is an amazing, amazing woman. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful.
Yeah.